Let's look today at some pencils from the Blackfeet Indian Writing Company. Hello everyone. Returning today to wood-cased pencils after a rather lengthy side quest in the realm of mechanical pencils and all things Skillcraft. But today's wood-cased pencil is sort of Skillcraft adjacent. Skillcraft, as I have talked about ad nauseum in previous recent videos, a private / governmental marriage, a company set up by the U.S. government or because of a contract with the U.S. government to National Industries for the Blind to produce pens, among other things, for the U.S. government. And Skillcraft is that private company fulfilling that government contract. We have a similar government / private corporate marriage represented here with Blackfeet Indian Writing Company. And I think I've showcased a pencil or two from this box in previous videos, maybe in the now on hiatus This Pencil Here series. I think that's what it was called. Probably time to resurrect that. Short videos about pencils that would keep me under a certain time limit, wouldn't it? That's probably a good idea. The Blackfeet Indian Writing Company, as the name would suggest, created on the reservation in Montana of the Blackfeet Indian reservation there in 1972, and were producing pencils until the early 90s. It's unclear in the literature when they boarded up their factory. News reports I was able to locate indicate the factory burned down in 2019. So the factory at least stood for a few decades after its shuttering, but was not producing pencils in this century as far as I can tell. Could be wrong in that. At some point it changed hands from the tribal ownership to some individuals, I think, still connected to the Blackfeet Nation, but not certain how that all went down, but making pencils for a very short period of time, relatively. And as luck would have it, setting up operations in the 70s when pencil manufacturing in the U.S. was really winding down and shipping overseas. So a lousy time to be firing up a pencil business in the U.S. And unfortunately, that sort of spelled their demise, I suppose. They did have contracts to produce pencils for the U.S. government, including the Senate, among other agencies and arms of the U.S. government. But they made some really fine pencils. I believe I've covered these particular pencils in detail in a previous video. These were made for a railroad. And one thing you learn in collecting pencils is the railroads apparently had an awful lot of white-collar logistical support required, because among all industries from the early to mid 20th century, I guess even later, because these would have been produced in the third quarter or the fourth quarter even of the 20th century. There's a lot of pencils with railroad names on them, and they weren't promotional pencils, presumably. I don't know that railroads would have found a need or desire to produce promotional pencils. These presumably were made to be used in-house in offices and stations and whatnot related to the railroad. So Chicago and Northwest Transport Company, safety first, but by the wrapping you can tell these are Blackfeet Indian 12 quality writing pencils, certified lead-free lacquer. Hard to see there. The Blackfeet Indian Writing Company in Montana, Browning, Montana. Excuse me. So won't focus too long on these because I did cover these in depth in a previous video. You can find that. They produced a number of different models of pencil. We'll showcase one or two of each variety here. Start off with really my favorite. This is the first Blackfeet Indian writing pencil I ever came across, and I was immediately impressed. It reminds one a lot of the Cedar Point, still being manufactured by Generals, another fine pencil, but kind of the natural wood. The Blackfeet Indian has a light, transparent coat of lacquer finish of some type on it. The Generals is just natural wood, no lacquer, no finish on it at all, but just visually similar, as you can see. These, I believe, were sold, and maybe some of the other models, but I know specifically these were sold in a cedar box of a dozen pencils. So you could use that then as your pencil case after you were done using all the Blackfeet Indian pencils enclosed in there. And you can still see those come up for pretty significant prices on eBay from time to time. So sometimes full of pencils, so that if you are a fan of Blackfeet Indian pencils or like what you see here, that might be a nice way to start a collection. Cool little glyph there of a rider on a horse. So this is the one that started my love of Blackfeet Indian pencils. As you see, this part of my collection is tiny compared to some of the others, Eberhard Faber family pencils. The box is bursting. This one I have just a smattering of pencils, but I'm always on the lookout for more. There's another version of that. Actually, let's compare them. Similar pencil. This one you see in a number 3, I believe. It's harder to focus on because it's a foil print rather than black. Has the same horse and rider logo. Also natural wood, but with a transparent finish. This one with a gold ferrule rather than black, and the eraser is apparently a different recipe there. It's a different color. I don't think that's just age doing that. I think they're using a different eraser. I like how the natural wood grain is visible through there. Beautiful, beautiful pencils. It's a shame they're not still being made. What other models do we have here? Sundance. I think I have a few of these. Kind of an arrow glyph surrounding the grade of number 2 there. And a simple arrow. This would, just based on the looks of it, be your standard office or school pencil. Kind of the bottom rung. There's an unsharpened version, slightly different. It's a number 3, and they've changed up the printing on it, as well as the color of the paint. They both say Blackfeet Indian Writing Company. I believe when it changed hands from tribal ownership to individuals owning it, they changed the name to Blackfeet Writing Instruments or something like that. I don't recall exactly. Another Sundance. See if there's any significant differences here. Those are all number 3s as well. The ferrules on all of these appear to be pressed and glued on rather than crimped. I'm not sure I've seen well, maybe this one is that one crimped on? That one might be. It's harder to tell on the black. Yeah, that's crimped on. So I was wrong. These, the ones that I said are the finest. And here's a factory sharpened. So brand new. What else? True Arrow. So they kept with these kind of, I guess what would be considered sort of stereotypical names for their pencils. This one has a unique ferrule on it with a brown stripe. Reminds one of, I think, National Pencil Company out of Tennessee was using a lot of those ferrules like that. Maybe they had a supplier. Maybe they weren't making their own ferrules, but they were coming from somewhere else. Something there. The USA, but I can't see what it says. Blackfeet Indian Writing Company, True Arrow, #1. Vector. What's your vector, Victor? Red metallic stripe on the ferrule here. Another unsharpened variety. This one also a #3. So I don't know if whatever contracts they were fulfilling at that factory involved a lot of companies needing off-graded, not your standard #2, but #3s and #1s I see represented here. Speaking of represented, I'm not certain this is a Blackwing pencil. I don't see anything on it to indicate that. The way the ferrule is attached looks like theirs. It's not crimped on as would be the norm for a basic office type pencil. But as you can see, U.S. House of Representatives. I know they were making writing implements, pens and pencils for the Senate, so probably for the House as well. Try to picture your congressperson actually writing with a pencil, and it's hard to imagine. So I don't imagine they were using too many of these, to be honest with you. I'm not certain that's Blackwing, but probably. What else here? Exacta. Do they have more than one of those? No. Different model. Okay, Exacta. #2. This one's been abused a bit. Thought I had a better example of this. Maybe I do somewhere. I'll have to look. It just hasn't made its way into this box yet, apparently. And this is crimped on. So they were apparently had at least 2 different types of machines placing ferrules on, because we have crimped and we have standard. Near as I can tell, this company wasn't making a huge number of pencils on that in that factory in Montana. I don't think in any year they ever made more than 500,000, even 250,000 pencils, but maybe the literature is wrong on that. This one, another kind of bargain standard office or school pencil, thin lead. So no real model name. We have bonded there, but that's not really a model name. So thin lead, I guess, this is what it's called. And then the misfit here, a pen rather than a pencil. I just didn't know where else to put this. It is dried up, so it doesn't work. I assume it was a red ink pen. Blackfeet Indian Writing Company, Swagger Stick. The name is terrific. Fine point. And must have been erasable ink, because there's the attached eraser, which unusual for a pen maybe is crimped on. That seems a little strange. Well, having an eraser on a pen like this is strange. This is a triangular shape, like one of those rouleau type triangles. So also kind of unique. So they were making pens, I know, for the U.S. government, the U.S. Senate. So maybe this was held by probably too old to have been held by our current vice president, but there you go. So smallish subset of my collection, but always looking for more examples from the Blackwing, see what I did there? I knew I would say that at some point. The Blackfeet Indian Writing Company. I appreciate you watching this little tour through my collection, and probably returning at some point to Skillcraft or U.S. government oddities, because I keep coming across more. So stay tuned for that if that is your thing. Regardless, glad you stopped by today. Hope to see you here again next time.